Single I salute. I'm Lord Maitreya, the hip hop futurist. You're now tuned into the Super Longevity Institute podcast. Today, I have a special guest. He is a filmmaker, a photographer whose work has ranged from Sundance Channel to MTV. His photos are collected by many businesses, entertainment, and celebrity clients. His photos have been used in several films, including Henry Singer's The Failing Man and The Omen in 2006, as well as books such as Jonathan Safran Foer's Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. His work is also included in the permanent archive of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. He was raised in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. He studied at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York. He earned a master's in science degree in the communication arts program. In 2010, Abrams published the Boombox Project, his historical overview of the history of a seminal pop culture icon. He shot the photograph featured on the cover of Time on September 11, 2001, the day of the 9/11 attacks, which showed an explosion at the World Trade Center. In 2005, the American Society of Magazine Editors ranked it as 25th out of a list of 40 most important magazine covers in the last 40 years. Ladies and gentlemen, hip hop futurist, transhumanists worldwide, Lyle Owerko. Welcome to the Institute. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I had to read that long bio because I know people don't like to read people's bios, and I really want them to know who you are. You do incredible work. So I really want people to know who you are and some of the things you've done. I know everything wasn't in the bio, but I got a gist of it. I read it off. And I got other additional questions because I know you went to Africa and you film. I got all that. I got all the photos and stuff. We're gonna go in today. Um,
hmm
when did you know you wanted to be a photographer? When did that come?
the first time I touched a camera,
Oh wow.
is when I was a kid, a camera was a really magical object. It also cost a lot to shoot pictures
Yeah.
in my youth. Developing one roll of film was a luxury. It was a lot of money to do that, and touching a camera was this time machine and this object of preservation and this object to explore the world and be able to share what you saw with the world. So it was very important it was maybe to a vocalist, it would be a microphone and a PA. For
Mm,
me, it was a camera. And that was my ability to share my vision and art with the world. And I sought out cameras and touched them and played with them and worked with them as much as I could, but it was still to me is even a luxury object. The
wow.
cameras that I want to work with now are incredibly expensive,
Mm,
and and uh, and that's just a nature of evolution, both technologically, culturally, and progressively, as we've uh, changed sort of our stream of visual culture, meaning we're looking at things on these phones now.
mm,
We're spending an extraordinary amount of time on our computer screens, whether it's a
yeah.
laptop, big screen, or even a telephone could be set as a computer screen now.
Yeah.
Um, I've sought out new types of cameras that change both the fidelity and ability to convey what I'm seeing.
Mm. Um, what made you want to come all the way from Canada to New York City to go to Pratt Institute? I know it's a great school.
Uh, yeah, I applied to schools in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. And New York was the place that scared me the most.
Mm,
It actually got me the most out of my comfort zone. I live in Los Angeles now, but I spent 25 years living in New York City. And New York was the one place that if I moved to LA and went to school in Los Angeles, I would never go to New York and experience New York. But if I
mm,
went to New York and went to school there, I could always move west. I didn't
mm.
expect to spend 25 years
Yeah.
in New
Wow.
York. And even though I'm not there now, I still miss it.
Mm.
but it was a really great place to come of age in.
Wow. Um, in Canada, was the boombox culture just as explosive in the '80s and well, I would say the '80s? Was it just as explosive as here in the states?
I think so. I think it was a global phenomenon, and it had it's all different phases.
Mm.
I bet you we talk to someone in Germany, they can talk about how important it was to German culture,
Yeah.
especially the European hip hop scene.
Yeah.
Uh, there was definitely a scene for this in Japan,
Yeah.
where the boombox was initially created to have as an object for playing music for a youth, like a segment of youth society that was leaving their parents' homes, and that meaning like villages, small towns, and moving to the urban centers. And because space was at such a premium in large cities like Tokyo and Osaka, they needed to play their music on a very small portable device. So it was very much like the culture of a futon, a boombox, a small collection of personal items, and that's what you started your first apartment out with.
Mm. Um, what was your first boombox,
Um,
if you can remember?
it was a realistic one.
Oh,
It
okay.
was from Radio Shack.
Oh,
It
gotcha.
was yeah, it wasn't was it was small. Then I got a little bit bigger, and then when I moved to New York, I went to 42nd Street and I bought a much larger one. I bought a Lasonic,
Yeah.
one of the electronics stores on right in Times Square.
Mm. Um, I know you do like. There was another one I read about that you like, and let's see if I can find it. Uh,
Was it the JVC M70?
was it the Insanity? I'm not. Hold on. I'll find it. Sure. I just want to find that real quick. Yeah, I found it. Can you see it?
Mm, yeah, that's
Was this one
the
of your
Sharp.
favorites?
Yeah, that's the Sharp GF nine six nine
Nine six
six.
nine six. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
That's a
a
good
really
one.
pretty. Yeah, it's a pretty blue box. It's. I love the boxes that had a tremendous amount of symmetry and balance in the
Mm,
design.
no
So it
doubt.
had these beautiful speakers and had these tweeters. The front grills came off. It had
Yeah.
an LED meter reader. It The cassette player was heavy duty, right in the center of the boom box, and I just thought it was like a very symmetrical, beautiful object,
Mm,
like like kind of the Ferrari of boom boxes, really well
mm,
thought out, and in the symmetry and balance, having a lot of just presence and personality to it.
mm. Yeah. My boombox, the ones that I like, I definitely like the hip hop. We love the 77 sharp, and I also like the boombox that I've seen in your book that has the wood paneling in it. I don't know why I like those. I like the
Hmm.
little wood paneling in them. When they had the wood paneling, I thought that I think Panasonic did something like that. And matter of way, of course I gotta show you a book. Everybody gotta still go get that. This is a classic. Um, yeah. So, in what way do you think the boombox is a cultural metaphor?
I think it's a metaphor for free speech and empowerment and youth and mobility
Mm,
and your ability to project your inner taste and voice onto the world. Not everyone wants that imposed, but it's a
mm,
symbol of that. Um,
right.
it's like you don't have to have the volume on 10, but there's the potential there, and that potential, that the strength of that potential gives people a little bit of a sense of you know authenticity, swagger, presence,
Mm,
and maybe a little bit of power, because
definitely.
you're power to curate your experience over others. And that experience
Mm,
may be a sports game. It isn't just music, but it may be a sports game. It may be the news. maybe a talk radio show, and absolutely music and
Yeah,
whatever your music taste is.
definitely. I know in the hip hop culture, we call them briefcases, but we the boombox is like was everything to us because you know we had back then it was cassette tapes. We would get a cassette tape from a jam and we would put it because the radios wasn't playing us. We would put the cassette tape in the radio and bring all the music wherever we needed to go, and it always it always generated crowds. People would come as soon as you play something dope. People would come, and if we were a little bit aggressive. I'm not even gonna front. I remember in the '80s when people got on a train and made everybody listen to it. They brought their
Mhm.
boombox. They said everybody's gonna listen to this today, and they brought their boombox on the train. Now you go on the train, you see the boombox with a line going through it. Like y'all can't be bringing your boomboxes on the train anymore. But we used to bring our, we made sure that we were gonna let other people who hadn't got exposed to the music listen to it. So we have a special good feeling about the boombox because it was the first technology that helped us, one of the first technologies that helped us spread this great art form called hip hop. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
A boombox was just as important as a laptop to a kid now,
yeah,
and and it was that first bit of youth that was pulled away from your parents. Like it used to be like a stereo system was a giant thing that sat in your living room
hmm
and and was like couch size. It was this giant object that was in your living room, and you were tethered there. And then the boombox came along and allowed you to leave your parents' house or go sit in your bedroom or go to your friend's house, go to a park, go to a city space, um, and really curate your soundtrack of your life then,
yeah,
or curate the soundtrack of your life then. Um,
yeah,
Whatever that favorite song of that summer was became an intrinsic part of the dialogue coming out of that device, and shaped so many people's sense of taste based on that.
yeah.
And then it started early, as you know, it started early gatherings for people who would rap. They would, and then
Yeah.
people got more creative in putting together pause mixes or
Oh
sample beat
yeah.
tapes so that people could start expressing their own form of what they were appreciating coming out of this boombox. They also could use that as a tool to create a rudimentary inclusion in that scene or emulation.
Do you know that they opened the first boombox store in California recently? Shout outs to
Mm.
David Rivera. They just bump box. They're gonna be selling
Oh,
bump boxes and vintage. I think they're gonna have a couple of vintage boom boxes also. And then I seen in Russia. In Russia, I don't know what part of Russia. There's a whole store that sells vintage boom boxes. I'm gonna go to Russia. I'm gonna see that. Yeah,
Russia, the
yeah,
Russian collector scene is actually quite big.
yeah. That's
Um,
crazy.
and hip hop to Russian collectors is very important because it's a medium of free speech and empowerment, and the ethos of hip hop resonates so well. You get into hip hop in other languages, and it really has a lot of meaning, especially like in French hip hop culture. There's a tremendous amount of both illustration, talk of, and dialogue of all of the different frictions that go on within French society, as well as the difficulties that some of the people who are rapping have faced in their youth or in their adulthood.
Mm.
And you carry that over into other cultures, and that theme runs super concurrent.
Yeah.
And um, and and I understand there's a very strong hip hop scene in Russia.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Those are some dope glasses you got on with the tints are dope. What type of glasses is those, Lyle? Those are flavor, yo. When
They
you
were a gift from my friend Shelby Mead, and I think I've got the
those are
box
fire.
here. Okay, it's can you see the
Yeah, I
name?
can
Yeah,
see
there.
them. Wow, that's a dope
Yes,
box too.
yeah, Caddis. It's my
Wow.
it was a gift from my friend Shelby Mead, and she asked if uh, what my prescription was, and she got me the prescription, and it's nice
Wow.
because I see you nice and clear.
Those are
My
dope.
my regular glasses are progressives, so
Mm.
I would be kind of looking at you talking like this.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, those are dope. Um,
Thank you.
I went to the store, the deli, the other day. I seen some cassette tapes. I said, "Oh, shucks, they were selling cassette tapes." I couldn't believe it. I seen two stores in New York City. I said, "Whoa!" I said, "Wow, what are they doing selling cassette tapes now?" Do you own? You still own cassette tapes, don't you?
Yeah, I've got a box. Um, you can't get rid of them,
Mm.
and uh, it's you keep the classics, and then there's also mixtapes you made that are really important. There's a lot of great devices now for transferring that into MP3s, where you can hook it up to
Mm.
your computer and transform your old mixtapes to your computer, just record them as MP3s. Um, that should be on my Christmas list this year.
Yeah, that's dope. Let me see. What made you want to turn the boombox into fine art? 'Cause-
Uh, I had a collection of them, and one of the it was I was in a relationship at the time. My girlfriend was like, I can't look at these things anymore. Can you put them away in your apartment?" And I thought, well, what better way than just create a giant print of a boombox and put it on your wall? I thought that would be fun, and that would be the end of the conversation on this. And then I realized that there had never been a book done on boomboxes, and I
Mm.
thought maybe there was like 25 or 30 worth photographing, and I ended up documenting a couple hundred of them. And most of them, the bigger ones, made it into the book. I still have a few what they call grails out there that I'd like to photograph.
Mm.
But I ended up coming up with this idea for a book on them, and I had applied to something called the Review Santa Fe
Mm.
in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which every year they select 50 photographers to come and present projects they're working on to a curated community of book publishers, gallerists, museum directors, etc. And I'd read a few photographers whose work I really respected had done it and thought to apply. And I got in based on one project. And while I was there, they were like, "Well, what else you got?" And I
Mm.
was like, "Well, actually, I've been working on this project on documenting boomboxes." And I showed the prints, and two book publishers, or actually three, came away and said, "We'd like to talk about signing this as a book." And that became a long process to get that book deal, but took a lot less time than many other things in my life. And in 2008, I got the book deal,
Mm.
and with Abrams, and proceeded forward with pushing that. And I love my editor. His name is David Cashon. He's no longer with Abrams, but
Mm.
he said, "I don't want you to just create a book on boomboxes. I want you to create the book on boomboxes."
Mm.
And I really feel it should be a cultural discussion, not just a book of 80 pictures of boomboxes. I think it should
Mm.
be you should look into licensing historical imagery. You should talk to people from that era, and the imagery had actually just been featured in Communication Arts, I believe. And
Mm.
the photo director of Spike DDB called me up and said, "Listen, I saw your images and would love you to come in, talk to our staff." And the day I was in, Spike Lee wasn't able to make it to the meeting, but they brought up the fact that I should do a book on it. And I said, "Well, actually, I got a book deal."
Mm.
And they said, "Well, maybe Spike would like to write the foreword to it." And that was one of the easier things I've ever done in my life, was that meeting, which led to Spike saying he'd love to participate in the project and write the forward to the book.
Mm.
And that was just terrific. And from there we had the keystone, opening to the book with Spike wanting to be a part of it, and then after that it was following up with lots of other people in the music industry, many of whom were like, I don't know if I get this project. And I was like,
Wow.
no, it's about celebrating this era. And at that time, people weren't so much focused back on the nostalgia of the early days of hip hop.
Mm.
Now, a lot of the artists are a lot older than most people even realize,
Mm.
and so we got the project going, tracked down a tremendous amount of imagery, tracked down a lot of really fascinating people, interviewed them, got their observations of the time and era, and their sentiments of this object and how much it meant to them and their youth, and then put it between two covers and released the book in October of 2010.
Yeah, I had this book for a long time, man. I love it. This print, right? This is one of your prints. The one on my side up above with this boombox. This is one of your prints, right?
Yeah, that was a
That's dope.
collaboration. Yeah, I did that with the artist collective Fail.
Mm.
It's two gentlemen named Patrick McNeil and Patrick Miller. They've been a creative team for most of their adult lives, and they're not only friends but people I consider deeply for turning to for advice, especially in the art world. And we kicked around the idea of collaborating on something, and we mixed both our art together. We did this uh, fine art print series. It was a
Mm.
really amazing experience.
This dope. I was trying to get it. I seen it. I went on your own website. It was sold out. I said, yeah, it would be sold out. It's dope. said, I said, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where did you buy most of your boom boxes?
I got some in Japan. Um,
Oh yeah.
I got a lot on my travels in the U.S. in
Mm.
various different cities, from Detroit to Charlotte, North Carolina, to where else? Um, Went to a lot of other small cities in the U.S. It seemed
Mm.
like wherever you could go and get find a really good thrift store, you could
Mm.
find a few boom boxes,
Mm.
especially in the mid to late 90s. They were kind of throwaways and castaways, and people didn't really want to have much to do with them. And that's where I picked up a lot of them. And then when I got the before I got the book deal, but when I started becoming really serious about a collector, then this really wonderful platform called eBay
Mm.
came out, and that was a way to track a lot of the what they call grails down, and that's where I bought ones that were missing from my collection.
Your photo on the cover of Time magazine, of the World Trade Center exploding on 9/11. Tell us about what was going on through your mind when you took that photo. Let me just pop it up on the screen real quick. Here we go. Yeah, that must have been a crazy time. What was going through your head when you took that photo?
It was history, like
Mm.
that. You absolutely without a iota of doubt was this was history unfolding
Mm.
in a way that it had never unfolded uh, before in mankind, especially in America, to see a absolute act of terror and war um, come to what many consider one of the greatest cities in the world, but it's also a very important part of the fabric of America is New York City. It's where many people entered America for the first time
Mm.
through Ellis Island, the symbol of freedom in the Statue of Liberty, and the ultimate symbols of economic commerce and physical strength in the world represented by those towers. Just to see them hurt, to see them weak, to see them damaged, to see them destroyed,
Mm.
it was truly history unfolding.
Yeah, I mean, um, how did you get it on the cover of Time magazine? How did they know about the photo, and how did you submit them, and how did that process go?
In between the first and second towers coming down, I knew of a lab in Tribeca
Mm.
and ran my film in there to get it developed
Mm.
immediately, knowing I had something very distinct.
Mm.
And I'd shot transparency film that day, so it's very quick to develop. There's no negative involved in the process and no print needed or contact sheet involved in the process. It's basically slide film, so what you see is what you get.
Mm.
And I, I, I ran the first rolls of the day in between going back out and shooting. Then when I came back, came in the lab, and the director of the lab said, "This is needs to be on the cover of Time." And there was another photographer there whose agent was available to see what I'd done, and we both headed uptown for him to drop his film off, me to drop my film off as well, and brought it in, and they looked at it and they were like, "This is remarkable stuff." And even as I was standing there, the film went from me to them right out the door and right to Time magazine right away.
Wow. Wow. How long? All right, let me go. Let me go back a little bit. How long did it
Mhm.
take to put the Boombox project together? Because it seemed like this whole book might have took a while to put together, all the photos and stuff. Let me just show them some boomboxes from the book so they can appreciate it. Look at these dope boomboxes, man. Look at that. Those works of art that he photographed. This is so dope. Um, how long did it take you to put that together? Like 1, 2 years?
I would say four from
Wow.
when I committed to the idea. It
Yeah.
had been an idea work in the back of your brain, and then in 2006, I remember it was March 2006,
Mm.
and I I had the opportunity to dedicate myself to something new, and said I really want to do this book, and I had the book deal within 2 years, which is pretty fast. A fully committed, executed contract to put this book out, and pardon me while I was straightening my hat,
It's all good.
and so um, I I had the book deal in 2008, and then it was about another year of just gathering all the materials, getting the copyright releases, getting the photographers involved, whose archives I was sourcing imagery from, interviewing everyone, transcribing those interviews, and then putting it into a format that really worked as a comprehensive book. And I did have a really great support network around me. There was Phil Green and his partner at Autonomy Entertainment uh, really helped me a lot in pulling together. It was Phil and Adam at Autonomy that helped pull me organize and pull the book together and make it into a comprehensive object. And
Mm.
they really did a terrific job in helping guide me. Adam brought in a great editor that
Mm.
knew my editor at Abrams, and we all worked together as a really great team to make it happen. And then Jeff Streeper, who designed the book, is a remarkable talent. He's Annie Leibovitz's creative director. He's done
Mm.
quite a few books with her, and uh, it just bringing someone who had a mature sensibility of putting a book together. So
Mm.
we were able to work together and spark something that we were both really proud of.
Wow. Oh, tell us about your hyper pygmy boombox exhibit. Let me show them. Do I have a picture of that? That was dope too. I like that picture. I was like, I have to show that. That was dope. Yeah, I do. That's so dope. That was dope. Tell us about that. That was official. When did what exhibit? What places did you have that exhibit at?
Uh, Most recently, that was shown at Art Angels in Los
Mm,
Angeles,
okay.
and it's a new evolution in the project where I'd already shot all these boom boxes, and I wanted to think of another place to take it. Like, how can you take it further? And
Mm,
I designed my own boombox, and that boombox we translated into a sculpture, and then I did a number of sculpture series based on that, and then that led to photographing that sculpture and creating a print series that just was explosive in color or very quiet and meditative in the white one, or amplified the sort of the beauty and almost religious type object
exactly.
sensibility
Right.
to it,
That's right. That's right.
where
Yeah.
where it's gold or it's the chrome
Yeah.
one, and really elevated it
Yeah.
to an object of desire.
Yeah.
It's and there was things that like silly informative pathways in there where you're thinking of Indiana Jones and the Lost Covenant, and the gold ark of the covenant that um, that had this sensibility to it. Or when I traveled in Southeast Asia and you would see giant gold Buddhas or pagoda tops in Southeast Asia,
Hmm.
how those carried reverence to them, or going to temples in the Middle East,
Wow.
um, as well as in Eastern Europe, and that there was a certain reverence that was built around very important objects in our culture and society. And I wanted the boombox to have that same reverence to it. And the only way to really render that properly was make my own, and then get it gold plated or have it made out of stainless steel
Mm.
and polished into a manner that was beholden and elevated the object to the high status that it kind of occupies now in our culture. But it ends up becoming a fantasy. It becomes the fantasy projection of it. It becomes that much more above the everyday object and the object of utility that it was, and becomes much more of something of complete reverence.
Wow. Just blew my mind with that. Yeah. Just blew my mind with that. Cause I don't know if you heard of KRS-One. Exactly how you talked about the boombox is how he speaks about it just now.
Uh, he's
Exactly how when he thinks about the boombox, the reverence and just he elevates the boombox to to him it's like a religious relic of the past. That's how he views it. So that I heard that type of talk from him a lot. So I'm glad you dropped that right there. Wow. Um, Tell us about your journey to Africa where you photographed the Samburu tribe. That was amazing. I seen the photos. It was amazing. Tell us about that. Tell us about the tribe. Did I say their name right?
Well, that was a real gift. That was part of my archaeology sensibility
Mm-hmm.
meeting complete experience. And I'd been donating artworks to a charity auction in New York that worked with schools in East Africa for many, many years. And I'd actually gone to Africa on a UN assignment to work on a film project that a Danish director was directing. And after the project wrapped, I'd had a very strong creative breakthrough in that time in East Africa. I was using digital cameras exclusively for the
Mm.
first time in the field. I wasn't using film. And while I was spending a month in East Africa and Kenya in this town working on this project for the UN, I had time to uh, work with style on my laptop, processing the pictures every day. And I had a breakthrough, I felt, in my work in black and white, and was working in lighting conditions. I was working with a subject matter that I had a tremendous amount of connection and empathy and reverence for, as well as just playful fun.
Mm-hmm.
And 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 that project led to me going back to Nairobi. And I stopped to see my old friend who had this charity project there. I knew her from working in the ad industry, and she had this mischievous smile and was like, "I want you to come up north to see the school you've been donating your time and art to generate capital for them." And so I went with her up north to a part of Kenya that very few people travel to. There was only a gravel road that went through that area, very rough stretch of road between. It's called the Northern Territory, and it stretched from about 3 hours drive north of Nairobi all the way to the Ethiopian border. And there's a lot of tribes that are there, whether it's the Samburu and and we Rendili and many other great even the Maasai slightly brush up there, even though they're known for more being about down in the south, and the Turkana, because up around Lake Turkana. And she dropped me off on the side of the road. I thought I was going to see some school kids, and she dropped me off on the side of the road because was heading off to another location. And these gentlemen were taking my bags off the truck, and they're all in feather mohawks, and I've never seen people like this. I didn't know that that's what was there. And she said, "Well, they'll take care of you. You'll be family seeing them about a week and a half." And very quickly, when people in that area hear that an outsider's there, they often presume it's a doctor, someone from the medical profession.
Mm-hmm.
And so, being in this little small village, and a village being a very loose term, word spread that I was there, and people brought me very sick children, and children who were injured very many different ways. And one family brought me a child that had been badly burnt in a cooking fire accident, and I took care of him for a couple of days before we could stabilize him and get him on a vehicle and off to a hospital. And the people there felt that I treated their children like my own children, and had a lot of respect for my behavior and empathy towards them. And people started coming after that to have their picture taken when they heard I was a photographer, mainly as a means of preserving a memory of themselves. Um, and so it turned into a cultural project where, as I was being explained to me, was that this was a way to preserve their memory for their grandchildren. Like older people coming and saying, "This is I have no pictures of me. I hear you take pictures, and I want you to take a picture." And I had a Polaroid camera with me, so I was able to give pictures right away to people, and not be kind of saying, "Oh, in a year I'll send you prints." I was like, "Well, I'll take pictures with my nice cameras, but I'm also going to give you a picture right now."
Wow.
And that resonated with people, and it created a relationship. And that relationship was an area that I returned to many times, and have the best of times and amazing adventures, and was around like such good humor. One of the times I remember going to a village that was about a 3-day drive into the bush. So if you can imagine how far off the track we drove up dried riverbeds to get to this location, and it was probably the most remote I've ever been in life anywhere. The no power, nothing, no cell, no radio waves reach these places, nothing. And we were in this one village, and I was wearing a big bandana and headscarf on, and they were setting up this little tent that I would take portraits in that I would use to create these very clean white atmospheres to do these portraitures in. And this gentleman was talking away, and everyone was laughing, and they were laughing and laughing, and he was pointing at me and talking, and they kept laughing and laughing and laughing, and so uh, they the guy comes up to me, and everyone's just laughing. We're always laughing, but he was speaking in Samburu, and he comes up to me, and he grabs my face, and he shakes the whiskers, and he rubs them, and he keeps talking to the guys over there, and they're laughing, and then he taps the top of my head, and then he goes and he gets in the tent and stands there ready for his picture. And then he's still talking to his friends, and they're all laughing. And so then he leaves, and I said, "What were you all laughing about so much?" Like, 'cause they were giggling. And they said, "Well, he's never seen a man wearing a scarf on his head like a woman." And
Mm.
and so he was telling all of us, everybody, look at my daughter who's about to take my picture, the daughter with the whiskers on her face. And they all thought that was so funny.
Mm.
And that's the way it was every day. Like,
Mm.
we laughed. I've never laughed so much.
Mm.
Like, and you go to sleep at night next to the campfire with all the warriors, everyone around the campfire with us, and you would hear them speaking in Swahili or Samburu mostly, and and uh, and they'd be giggling till
Mm.
we went to sleep, and I would be in the morning. I was like, "What were you guys giggling about? Like, what was it?" Because there was a few that spoke good English, and then others that didn't speak any English at all,
Mm.
and depending on the level of their schooling, and they would be like, "Oh, they're just talking about stories when they were young warriors and they were young boys, and like the one time they saw a rhino for the first time, and they all like hid, or the time that someone lost their goats in the wilderness, and we all had to go find their goats,
Wow.
and they'd be just talking about adventures like that." And so it is they were looked at it as an important document of a time and space in their world, and
Mm.
that I photographed people that would be forgotten if I hadn't photographed them. And they
Mm.
understood that I had the ability to share it with the world as art, which they thought was important too, because it made the memory of them even more valued. Like,
Mm.
that someone would value their presence and put that presence in their home, made their existence um, have more gravity rather than be
Wow.
forgotten. They were in someone's home, so it was important for all of us,
Mm.
um, and a really project for the deeply left an impression on my soul, because you got to travel back in time, and live in another uh, parallel universe to our universe that was still going on, and learn all the value of things that they valued. Like,
Mm.
for instance, if I brought gifts, like say in between trips, I would come and I'd bring clothing or different things that they wanted. And one gentleman wanted some pants. Well, if I brought him a few pairs of pants, and he was like, "Well, great, you got me a pair of pants, but you brought me four. I just need one, so I'm going to give the other three pair of pants away because I only need one pair of pants."
Mm.
And how they looked at life in that regard, where it wasn't so much about accumulation, it was about sharing. And if you had plenty, then you shared your plentiness with other people who had nothing, because it made no sense for one man to have one pair of pants, or for one man to have four pairs of pants. It was more important to have one pair of pants and four people to have one pair of pants than it was for one to have
Mm.
four. You just learned about all these things and how they looked at life in much different ways than us.
Wow. Wow. I'm gonna show a picture of that. I think I have something. Let me see these wonderful pictures. Wow. Wow. Look at that, man. That's incredible. That's an incredible, powerful photograph right there.
It's
Yo.
a powerful individual.
Wow. Who was this gentleman? I was like amazed. Do you
He
remember?
was, yeah, I don't remember his name at the moment.
Uh,
I have a lot of it written down,
yeah.
and and
Wow.
As it was just about documenting as many people as I could. Like
Yeah.
sometimes shot like a couple hundred portraits in a day. Like it was like
Wow.
2, 3 people just lined up and just taking pictures, taking pictures, taking pictures.
Let me show some more.
Um,
Keep
yeah.
talking.
Um, cool. I didn't mean to cut in on your audio.
No, that's okay. No, go ahead. I just wanted to show
Yeah,
you
but
when you talk.
also from our email, I had a hard out at 2:55,
Okay.
and I'm looking at the clock now.
Okay. Well, let me just try to end this off real quick. Just got one more
Yeah, sorry
question.
about that.
That's okay. We
We,
did, we got a lot in. We got a lot in.
yeah, I could the
You
hour.
went to Mongolia also, and I got a picture of some Mongolian. Just want to show that real quick.
Mm,
That was crazy. That was in Mongolia, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's another culture that is another one of the great nomadic cultures in human history. They even say that a quarter of the world's population has Genghis Khan's DNA.
Yeah, I heard
For the
that.
fact that they traveled and he birthed so many, his lineage carried through so many different people and was spread so globally that that's there. It's a remarkable place. Like to go to a place where there's pure silence, no airplanes overhead, no sound, and to meet these people that live in this copacetic relationship between um, animals and humanity in a very beneficial relationship where the eagle is a family member until it reaches full maturity at about 12 years of age. They have the eagles from very young, maybe 8 months old or a year old upwards. And after about 10 years, they release the eagles back into nature so that they can
Mhm.
complete their life cycle by raising their own family. And sometimes the eagles will come back and visit, but
Wow.
they form this relationship and this bond that's based on hunting and survival and work together through the winters to trap animals and to live in this very, very harsh environment. And they survive because they work together.
Wow.
And I just thought it was a really amazing metaphor for the future of humanity. Should we, really humanity really diverge into some directions and really harm both our greater whole and harm the earth, that this might be the only way out. And so it became a much larger metaphor. But again, it's a gift to go to these places and experience them and bring back imagery that I hope captures the strong sense of respect I have for them.
Wow. Well, this was great, man. And thank you for taking out your busy time to come talk to us at the institute. I really appreciate it, man. I love your work. I'm gonna keep following. Again, thank you, Lyle Owerko, and you're always welcome if you have anything interesting that you wanna tell the people. You have a new book or something, or more exhibitions. You're always welcome at the institute to drop by and drop some knowledge on
Oh,
us. Okay.
well, thank you. I look forward to just not having to shill something, just to share, listen to you a little more next time too.
Thank you, man. Much respect and love. We out. Lord Maitreya, Lyle Owerko. Thank you, bro. I really enjoyed this. I'm gonna treasure this and listen to it over and over again, and I'm gonna spread it. I'll send you a link. One love, y'all.
Thanks. Really appreciate it. Take care.